When XRP would eventually moon, I used to get really excited. That wonderful day that all cryptocurrency holders sort of hope for, don't you think? However, I recently discovered something that completely upended my crypto world. I came to the conclusion that perhaps we are posing the incorrect query. This is a personal story, isn't it? XRP was the underdog choice in my portfolio when I first started investing in cryptocurrency, sort of like Rocky Balboa. I used to wake up every morning, rub my eyes and check the price of XRP right away. Was it today? When is the moon? That was a question I asked more times than I'd like to acknowledge. Now, it's possible that you have also done the same thing if you own any XRP. We're loading the app as if it were about to blow up because you turned your head away. However, I was completely taken aback when I came across a post on X by an analyst by the name of 𝗙𝗶𝗆. He essentially stated that the question of when the XRP moon will occur, or at least when it will, is out of date. Outdated, he said. That seemed to me to be the only question. He asserted that the true inquiry is when the price suppression of XRP will stop. Now, that term price suppression led me in a direction I never would have imagined. Additionally, you might not wonder when the moon will appear again by the story's conclusion. You'll be asking a much more pertinent question instead. Believe me, things get crazy on this journey. I have it all. Big villains, hidden plots, tenacity of the underdog, and perhaps even a happy ending. Additionally, you should definitely join the discussion on our free educational Discord server if you enjoy this kind of in-depth discussion. Every day, a whole community analyzes crypto stories like this. Let's get started now. I must admit that I have been a fervent supporter of XRP for a considerable amount of time. As some refer to it, it is a component of the XRP army. I sort of like the XRP family better. It sounds a little less hostile. In any case, I recall the excitement in 2017 when XRP surged to about $3 and everyone assumed it was just warming up. However, years later, it seems like XRP has an invisible ceiling at that same $3 mark. Both Ethereum and Bitcoin experienced numerous exhilarating surges to reach all-time highs. However, XRP has been stuck in traffic for a very long time, staring at the same red lights. I initially thought, well, perhaps it's just bad luck or timing market cycles. However, something kept bothering me. In reality, what was holding XRP in check? It began to resemble watching a beach ball in a swimming pool at this point, don't you think? Because someone is holding it underwater, it simply won't come to the surface. The buoyancy is there, you know, it simply wants to rise, but something invisible is holding it down. I resumed my investigation, and the more I learnt, the more it resembled a crypto detective story, don't you think? Consider this. Every time the trading volume of XRP peaks and the price begins to rise, it suddenly hits a wall. Not the typical market resistance, such as selling or profit-taking, but something nearly artificial. People started talking about enigmatic forces, spoof orders, or, for instance, those that pretend to be large sell orders that suddenly materialize to scare the price down before disappearing, aren't they? Or wash trading, isn't it, when someone manipulates price trends and creates fictitious volume by trading with themselves? Additionally, trading bots are able to force the price down as soon as XRP begins to show some signs of life. It seems as though XRP is repeatedly knocked back down by an unseen 𝗙𝗏𝗃 mallet whenever it attempts to rise. I realize that all of this sounds a little bit like conspiracy theories. You do believe me. I also had to put on my own hat of skepticism, right? You do realize that I'm not usually the one for the tinfoil. However, it got more difficult to ignore the patterns as I made the connections, don't you think? Furthermore, it wasn't limited to covert market practices. XRP was held back by a few very real, highly visible actions, behaviors that seemed well planned. The year is December 2020. XRP was at last starting to take off. Institutional interest was growing. Ripple had partnered with major players like MoneyGram, and XRP was being used in actual transactions. I can still recall my very first sensation of being on top of the world and thinking, yes, this is it. It's XRP's moment. Then, without warning, Ripple was sued by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for allegedly selling unregistered securities. My jaw naturally fell to the ground. At this point, the timing couldn't have been worse, really. It seemed as though the roller coaster was about to go down when someone applied the emergency brake. After a minute of XRP climbing, it seems as though the track was torn up directly in front of it. I still remember seeing the news alert on my phone while I was seated at my kitchen table, or at least there. I really did say aloud, "You must be kidding me." I realized then that something was amiss. 𝗙𝗏 would subsequently bring up the fact that the timing of that lawsuit, well, let's say, was intriguing, wouldn't he? Isn't it strategic? The regulatory smackdown happened just as XRP was about to take off. It's difficult not to question whether the intention was to simply stop XRP's momentum in its tracks. The fallout was quite severe at this point. In a matter of days, several significant exchanges went into a panic and, particularly in the US, either suspended or completely delisted XRP trading. XRP seemed to have been kicked out of the celebration. Let's say your suppliers abruptly inform you that they are no longer permitted to sell to your store. And for the US investors, that was essentially how it felt. Now, this gave me a little sting, didn't it? My preferred trading platform is Kraken Pro. I was using Kraken Pro every day when all of a sudden, I couldn't access XRP. I'm trading contentedly one day, and then my XRP disappears. It seemed unreal. Indeed, I should point out that the link below, which is an affiliate link that helps the channel here, is at least a Kraken, and is in the description. Don't use it, use it. Do what's best for you too, you know? This not only made trading difficult for current XRP holders, but it also essentially shut out a large number of prospective new investors. XRP was abruptly placed on the naughty list at the moment. If you were in the US, its value fell precipitously. Really, in an instant, it dropped from 60 or 70 cents to 20 cents. A purchasing opportunity that I had to seize. Furthermore, the harm far outweighed the cost. It felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under the XRP community. Correct. Developers, companies, and anybody else working on or with XRP had to abruptly stop. Correct. A well-known community member noted that the price wasn't the only thing that was crushed by the SEC lawsuit. It hindered the project's expansion, slowed down creativity, and sapped the community's vitality. We were having a great party when the policeman arrived and told us to shut it down. The underdog in the US cryptocurrency scene, XRP, was now the outlaw as well. The underdog narrative really comes back into play at this point. Because XRP never dropped to zero in spite of everything, it persisted. Many of us also never let go of our hopes or our bags, don't we? Perhaps we are simply unyielding, or perhaps we had the feeling that the triumph was imminent and that the story wasn't really over yet. Now, Ripple did something intriguing, even as we were sort of moping about the chaos caused by the lawsuit. They didn't give up and move on. Rather, they made the mistake of traveling abroad. On-demand liquidity was a product offered by Ripple. For those who are